that Elisabeth Truss had nothing in her past for them to worry about. Members then discovered she had not told them about an affair with a married MP. She is now facing deselection. Our political correspondent Andrew Sinclair is here. Who's making these claims?
They're being made by people who feel that the party in South West Norfolk is being unfairly blamed over all this. You'll remember that members were angry when they only discovered about Elisabeth Truss's affair after she'd been selected. Now, she says she didn't tell them about it during the interview because the affair was widely reported at the time and she assumed they all knew. And the party's been criticised for not doing its research properly. Well, today I've been down at Westminster and I spoke to two senior members of the party who are closely connected to the selection process, who tell me that when the shortlist of 6 was announced, a delegation of officials from South West Norfolk went down to Central Office for a meeting, and one of the officials asked at this meeting, are there any skeletons in any of the candidates' cupboards which we should know about? And they were told no. And I'm told it's that assurance which meant that they decided not to ask the candidates about their past at the selection meeting.
And what does Central Office have to say about this?
Well, Central Office tersely told me this afternoon that it doesn't give running commentaries on private meetings. But if this story is true, it does explain the animosity at the moment between the national and the local party. The local party really feel that they've been duped into taking Ms Truss, a candidate who David Cameron really wants to see as an MP.
Andrew, thank you very much.
A body's been found in a burned-out car in Suffolk. It was discovered this morning close to the visitors' centre at Lackford Lakes, a nature reserve near Bury St Edmunds. Police have sealed off the car park. Officers are treating the death as unexplained. 2 police horses have been attacked and injured by a dog in Essex. Rosie and Toffee, pictured here before the incident, both needed stitches for their wounds. They were on patrol in Harlow when the attack happened. Both their police riders were thrown and suffered bruises.
Now, over the next few days, more than 100 soldiers from this region will be coming home from Afghanistan. The light dragoons are based at Swanton Morley in Norfolk, and during the tour, 6 soldiers were killed fighting the Taliban.
It was all about smiles and celebrations today, but it's been a long 7 months since these children have seen their fathers. Around 300 soldiers from the barracks were deployed to Afghanistan in April. They're due back next week.
They can't wait, so they're counting down the days.
I really want him to come back home because I really miss him and he's been gone for a really long time.
Up and down, a bit emotional at times, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been hard.
It has been hard this time.
Yeah, definitely the hardest tour.
When they come back, you just feel all the weight's been lifted off your shoulders. But when you see people who don't come back, it just makes you weak.
During the summer, the dragoons were at the heart of Operation Panther's Claw. The major ground battle was to make the area safe ahead of the presidential elections. It led to the regiment losing 6 young servicemen, Lance Corporals Richard Brandon, David Dennis and Nigel Moffat, along with troopers Philip Lawrence and Christopher Whiteside and craftsman Anthony Lombardi.
It's been a bit of an emotional roller coaster, certainly in July and August. There was a definite air of trepidation around the barracks, but they came through that remarkably well. They supported each other as well, and I think they've made some really good friendships over the last 6 months. And because they're all in the same boat, and so they stick together and get themselves through it more often than not.
Knowing the dangers, the families, wives and girlfriends are now desperate to get the banners finished and get their loved ones home. Louise Holmes, BBC Look East, Swanton Morley.
The Queen has been visiting a leading research centre in Suffolk. It's 50 years since she became patron of the Animal Health Trust near Newmarket.
Arriving at the Trust's headquarters at Kentford this afternoon, the Queen first toured its new visitor centre. The Trust is leading the way with genetic research into diseases which afflict horses and other animals.
She seemed very interested in understanding the work we're doing to sort of identify the mutations that cause these different inherited diseases, and how what we're doing will help breeders of both dogs and horses in the future breed their animals with confidence that they're not going to produce animals affected with inherited disease.
As well as the traditional walkabout, to the delight of the crowd, there was just time to plant a tree in memory of the Animal Health Trust's founder, Dr. Walter Waldridge. John Cranston, BBC Look East.
There's still no word on when or if the biggest car park in Ipswich will reopen. The Crown multi-storey was closed for emergency checks 2 weeks ago after engineers found faults in the upper floors. The Borough Council says it won't know the fate of the building until next week. The insurers are examining a structural survey of the car park.
Now, have you bought your pumpkin for Halloween this weekend? If so, you probably paid a lot less for it than you expected. A bumper harvest has seen prices plummet, and many farmers are simply dumping them back in their fields.
You want that one? It's always a difficult choice, but this year it's even harder because there are lots more to choose from.
Now, last time the yield wasn't great, but this year's dry and hot summer has meant that this time round our farmers have produced 50% more pumpkins.
And that's had a big impact on price. Some supermarkets are selling them for just £1. It's hurting small-scale farmers like Robert Russell near Norwich.
This year we've obviously had to slash ours virtually in half just to compete. So, whereas we were charging £2 per piece last year, we're now £1 a pumpkin.
Some larger-scale farmers are simply dumping their unwanted pumpkins, left to rot and ploughed back into the soil. This photo was taken by a viewer in Cambridgeshire. And at Bintry Farm Shop in Norfolk, there are still plenty available, just days before the big day.
You can't guarantee the weather, and obviously everybody wants their pumpkin, so you've got to sow an insurance level. And if you do get a huge crop, then you run the risk of flooding the market or having to dispose of them when you can't sell.
The bumper harvest, though, is good news for the pumpkin sculptor.
It's not just the horror and the happy Halloween people want on them, they want portraits on them. I've got a little girl now who wants me to put her cat on there.
And this is his Michael Jackson. Don't judge it until you turn out the light. Joel Mapp, BBC Look East.
You're watching Look East from the BBC.
Following last night's special programme broadcast live from Norwich Crown Court, many of you got in touch with your views about the justice system. We've got just a few of them here.
Penny Learmonth says she had reason to visit the Crown Court in Chelmsford twice this summer. She says, "I was impressed by the thorough and impartial process. The judge himself came across as compassionate and impartial."
Dave Thomas believes the focus should not be on the offenders but on the victims and how they should be compensated.
Ronald Ellis from Northampton says sentences are not harsh enough. The only way we can keep prison numbers down is to educate people from birth what is acceptable and what is not.
This email is from Julina Dean from Colchester. She writes, "I was robbed at the pharmacy I work in. The guy had a knife and wanted drugs. He was caught, went to trial, but he got 9 months. It's a joke," she says.
Paul Rees from Leigh-on-Sea says in other countries they don't lock up people over the age of 70. Why don't we do the same? It would create more space in our prisons.
Thanks to all of you who got in touch. We always like to hear your stories and your experiences. You can email us via the website bbc.co.uk/looky.